It all began on a scorched afternoon in the vast wilderness of the Masai Mara, when Park Ranger Daniel Cato, a quiet man with eyes as sharp as an eagle's and a heart forged from a lifetime of compassion for wild creatures, picked up a strange signal from a rarely used GPS caller of faint. Erratic pulse belonging to one of the reserve's most elusive and mythic animals, a white lion named Falme, rumored by local tribes to be a spirit guardian of the savannah and seen only a handful of times in over a decade. Daniel had heard the legends growing up, but today there was no time for stories, only action, as he revved his jeep through thorny underbrush and bone-dry trails, chasing that fading signal until it led him to a harrowing sight, a deep, camouflaged poacher's trap dug into the earth. Like a silent, waiting mouth, and inside it, bloodied and exhausted, lay Mfalm himself, his flank gashed by the rusted metal of the cage, his golden eyes flickering with pain and defiance. And for a moment Daniel froze, not out of fear, but from the weight of what stood before him, not just a lion, but a living legend wounded by greed, acting on pure instinct. Daniel radioed for backup, but knew help was hours away, so with shaking hands he pulled his emergency kit, climbed down into the pit beside the immense silent beast, and began cutting away the tangled mesh and setting up IV drips, every moment a gamble with death, as even a weakened lion could tear a man in half. Yet Mfalme watched him with eerie stillness, as though sensing the intent behind the ranger's heartbeat. After nearly 2 hours of grueling effort under the blazing sun, Daniel managed to patch the worst wounds, sedate the lion with a tranquilizer, and rig a sling to lift him out just as the sounds of branches snapping made him whirl around to see 5 golden forms emerging from the trees above. Mfalm's pride, silent and watchful, their muscles taut and eyes locked on the man who touched their fallen leader. Instinct screamed at Daniel to run, but something deeper, older, told him to stay still, and he stood, heart pounding, as the lions descended, not with fury, but with something more complex: curiosity, caution, reverence. The lead lioness stepped closer, her powerful frame just feet away, and for a breathless moment she locked eyes with Daniel, then let out a low, resonant growl, not a threat, but a call, as if confirming to the others that this man was no enemy. When the sling finally hoisted Mfalme out, with the backup team arriving seconds later, the pride stood back without aggression, circling like sentinels as Daniel and the vets worked through the night to stabilize the white lion at the edge of the clearing, while cameras from newly arrived journalists captured the incredible scene. But what came next defied every known rule of wild animal behavior and left experts speechless. The very next morning, as Mfalme regained consciousness, still weak but alive, the entire pride returned, not to reclaim him, but to lie down around Daniel's camp, surrounding the ranger with a protective formation, usually reserved only for members of their own pack, with one young lion even nuzzling Daniel's boot in what looked like a gesture of gratitude. Wildlife biologists watching the footage would later say it was the first recorded moment of a lion pride accepting a human into their inner circle, as if Mfalme himself had vouched for the ranger's soul. For the next 3 days, the pride followed Daniel's team at a distance, never threatening, just watching, guarding, until the white lion was strong enough to limp alongside them again into the bush. But the bond didn't end there. Months later, Daniel was leading a new group of rangers through the area when the pride reappeared, not with aggression, but with a familiar, almost familial presence, allowing him to walk among them, to touch their cubs, even to sit beside Mfalme as he rested under a baobab tree. And from that day forward, every time Daniel returned to the Mara, the lions came, too, as if honoring a pact forged in pain, courage, and something that went deeper than instinct, something like trust, or even love. The footage became a global sensation, shared millions of times, sparking debates among scientists, shamans, and skeptics alike. But Daniel never sought fame instead. He used the attention to campaign against poaching, raise funds for wildlife rescue, and protect the fragile harmony between man and beast, always crediting Mfalme not just as a lion, but as a friend who had taught the world that sometimes, when one dares to reach across the line between fear and faith, the wild doesn't bite, it embraces.